In tonight's video, we have a lot of other NHL news to discuss. It's been an incredibly busy day with NHL Free Agent Frenzy. It's been a record-setting day for terms of contract and dollars spent. We'll kind of recap a few things that went down there. Plus, we have a few hirings with NHL benches and some coaches changing in assistant coaching roles. Plus, we have big news out of the NHL today as well that they've reinstated guys like Stan Bowman and Joel Quenneville. We'll discuss what happened there and what this means for the league moving forward, and some pretty important trade talk as well. Could we see a Mitch Marner deal to Vegas? There's some rumblings about the Vegas Golden Knights kind of sniffing around the forward here, looking for a potential trade. Plus, we have trade talk around the Edmonton Oilers and the Ottawa Senators as well. All that and more coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, it's been a ridiculously busy day. Happy Canada Day to my fellow Canadians. I know July 4th for the U.S. is coming up here in a couple of days. You guys will celebrate your obviously country's birthday there as well. So certainly, you know, it's a busy week in the NHL. When Canada Day comes around, as a Canadian, you don't always get to you know, enjoy a lot of the festivities because it's such a busy news day in the NHL. The NHL schedule comes out tomorrow. Today they did release all the teams' home openers, so if you want that information, it is available here online. Like I said, it's been a record-setting day. Well over $1 billion in contracts signed. Most of that being UFA, some of it contract extensions. We saw the Nashville Predators steal the show today with Stamkos and Shea and Marchessault all landing in Smashville. You know, the Lightning walking away from Stamkos. That was, you know, quite surprising, but they did end up with Jake Gensel. We heard lots about Vegas being in on some players, and of course that never happened. The Panthers lost a ton of players from their championship run. You know, we saw Brandon Montour, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Ryan Lundberg, Anthony Stolarz, Kevin Stenlund, and a bunch of others, you know, end up not getting re-signed in Florida and moving on. So there's still some names out there as well. The Oilers were busy. The Oilers were able to bring back most of their Cup final crew that got them there. Connor Brown, Matthias Janmark, you know, being a couple of important penalty killers there. They did lose Warren Fogle, but, you know, overall they got Jeff Skinner as well going to Edmonton after being bought out by the Sabres. It's been a really, really busy day. I've got several videos here on the channel covering all the signings. We saw some mega extensions, including UC Saros, you know, making the day in Nashville even better. The Habs got a big deal for Juraj Slafkovsky, getting him extended for 8 years. Matvei Michkov signed his ELC with the Flyers today, so that was a big deal. So again, all those videos, all more details, all more analysis covered in a bunch of videos here today. So certainly if you haven't had time, certainly check out what else I've posted here on the channel here today. It's been a very busy. For those of you who've been following along, watching everything, I just want to say thanks appreciate your support and for sticking with me here today, because it's been so busy and it's hard to keep up with. And you know, it's hard not to have your head spinning trying to keep up with here with all the news. But a few other details around the league, some other news items. There was a couple of coaching type news pieces today. The Islanders, we knew they were going to be making an addition to their coaching staff here on the bench. And Lou Lamoriello today confirmed the new assistant coach for the Islanders is Tommy Albelin. So, of course, Albelin, somebody that Lou would be quite familiar with from the Devils days. Very, very experienced, as of course, as a player, as a coach as well. So he should be a good fit there, hopefully, with Patrick Waugh. And the Minnesota Wild today, which we had heard rumblings about back, and I can't remember which day it was, but one of the news videos I did on the channel a couple of weeks ago mentioned that they may be hiring Jack Capuano, and that is official. We knew his contract was expiring yesterday with the Ottawa Senators, and that he wasn't returning there, and that Minnesota was going to be the landing spot for him. So those pieces of news are now official. Another big piece of news that the NHL put out today, which, to be completely honest, I found extremely disappointing. Couple of things. One, they dumped this news on us on July 1st, which is the busiest news cycle of the NHL calendar. And to me, this was an attempt to kind of bury the news so that more people don't see it. But at the end of the day, they made this news effective July 10th. The league is reinstating the Blackhawks executives that lost their jobs because of the Kyle Beach sexual assault cover-up. So Stan Bowman, Joel Quenneville, and Al McIsaac, who at this point all lost their jobs after that investigation was complete and were all prohibited from working in the NHL, without league approval in the future. They really weren't suspended for a defined period of time or anything of that nature. But now they're back. They've been asking to come back for some time. I do think the odd team did talk to the league maybe about the odd one. But at this point, we knew that a review was coming as well, because Gary Bettman was asked about this on a number of occasions during some of his more recent press availability, and he said it's something he had to review here in the near future. So obviously they've presented their cases and they've convinced the league that they've learned from their mistakes and that they've, you know, it won't even happen again. And yeah, I don't know what else they had to show. But I mean, the statement from the NHL says that while they made basically really bad decisions, that the league is comfortable and confident that, like I said, they've learned from it and they've done some training and courses and all this stuff. But it's like, I just don't know how they can come back from this. The worst of it is, get this, Stan Bowman, who's now reinstated, or will be July 10th, is reportedly the front runner to take the vacant GM job with the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm like, really? Okay. I don't know. I just find this disappointing. I know there's a few people that are thrilled and they love Coach Quenneville and they think he's amazing. And you know what? As a coach and as a GM, like, you know what? They did. I don't care how good they were at their jobs when it comes to the on-ice product. Coach Quenneville might be a phenomenal coach, strategist, you know, all that stuff. Bowman, to me, wasn't the greatest GM. I really don't. I think he's overhyped, in my opinion, and I always thought that. I mean, what about Kyle Beach? And here's the other thing. The coach that was in the question here, Brad Aldrich, was the video coach that was reported to the Blackhawks that was committing these crimes against Kyle Beach and other Blackhawks, Black Aces. And he was given a reference to leave the Blackhawks and went on to commit these crimes elsewhere, which he ended up getting charged for. So those other victims may not have ever had to deal with this guy and could have been spared possibly if they would have done their jobs properly and reported things and taken care of business the way it should have been in the first place. So there's multiple people and multiple victims here that are, I'd really like to know what they think of all this. I mean, I don't think you can cover up sexual assault and should be ever allowed to come back and work like that. Like, I'm very disappointed. Like I said, I've seen the odd person online that just think these guys are amazing and are happy that they're reinstated. I don't know. I have a really hard time, you know, accepting that. I don't think it's right. What they did was not just wrong, but like, you know, imagine if you're a parent and your kid, like, that's because they have a lot of young kids now, right, on the Blackhawks. And obviously they're not going to go back to their old jobs for Chicago, but just like, you know, look at the youth in the NHL. You want to know that as your kids grow up and hopefully become professional hockey players, that they're actually in a safe environment. You know, these players are put in positions where, you know, some of these people with authority, they can really impact your careers. You know, do what they say or you're going to be out. You know, sometimes they put up with a lot of stuff that they shouldn't have, and even if it's wrong, illegal, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, I'm just very, very disappointed that these guys, for what they did, they can come back from it at all. And secondly, they dumped this news on us on July 1st, the busiest day of the year. That to me is just, the NHL has never learned, it probably never will, until we get new leadership at the top and actually get somebody there that can think differently. This old boys club that runs the league is never going to change. We should all know and accept that by now. And, you know, they just dumped this news on us in an attempt to, hopefully, that very few people would see it because of all the signings and the craziness of the day. So that's my rant on that, but that is effective and something that the league has decided starting on July 10th. And as far as we know, Stan Bowman's going to have an opportunity, sounds like right away, with the Oilers. So, yeah, anyways. enough of that. On to the trade rumors for the video that I want to talk about today. We know that Nick Robertson has expressed, according to reporters, that he has no intention to re-sign with the Maple Leafs and would like to be traded. There's a lot of frustration over how his career development has been handled, how the fact that he's been shuffled around so much, largely due to cap purposes, and he doesn't want to be there. And then Brad Treliving, as most GMs spoke to the media this afternoon after their signings kind of calmed down, you know, in the later part of the afternoon. And Brad Treliving did address this. He was asked about the Nick Robertson reports that were out there, and all he said was that he feels that Robertson can be a good player for them, and that he didn't really indicate that he was going to move him or anything of that nature. But if the player refuses to sign, obviously, you know, they could take the hard road and be like, well, we're not trading you, so I guess you're sitting out. They could do that. They don't have to accommodate it. I can't imagine why they wouldn't want to, though, because they could get an asset back, hopefully that will help them, and let him move on. But he basically just said that they need him to be a good player for them, and sees an opportunity for him and all that. So I don't know. I'm not really sure where things stand from the Leafs standpoint. You don't really get a lot of clarity sometimes from GM speak, but we do know that Robertson definitely wants to be moved. He did address it, but didn't really, you know, didn't really give us a lot to go on. So we'll see what happens there. There's another further report on Jacob Trouba from the New York Post, basically saying that the Rangers are going to find a way to move on from this defenseman. We know as of today, his trade protection, his contract changes from a no move to a modified no trade. He had to submit his list of teams. We don't know who those teams are, of course. But for right now, that even if it means putting him on waivers, they may find somebody to take him off waivers. Like they're going to push and find a way. They're going to convince him to waive that no trade, to go to where they want him to go, or put him on waivers. Like they're going to be taking the hard line here. Sounds like Chris Drury, like kind of the same thing he did with Barclay Goodrow, except with the Goodrow, he didn't even really give him options. He just did it. So we'll see. But according to those reports, that the Rangers and this Trouba stuff is moving full steam ahead. I mean, it might take some time. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, obviously Detroit's been the main team that's been mentioned. You know, they may have some flexibility there. But, I mean, obviously a trade is the best way because then they can retain salary. If they have to put them on waivers, then somebody else is going to have to take the whole contract. It might change things. But at the end of the day, this Trouba thing appears to be, from the Rangers' perspective, something that is necessary to happen. And they seem determined to make it happen through any means necessary. So we'll see what Chris Drury decides to do here, but doesn't sound like they really want to take him back for next year. They want to get a move made, and they're going to figure out how to do it. The Edmonton Oilers, sounds like relationship with Evander Kane might be heading, I guess the word I've heard a few reporters say is souring on today. I think they'd really like to move his contract. We've seen that Evander Kane, I don't know if I'm not sure if there's anything off ice, because I know every couple of years he seems to run into this with teams, and so far everything's been good in Edmonton. So I don't know of anything like that, but I think it's fair to say, based on just on the on ice play alone, that I don't think they've been overly thrilled with how this past year went, and obviously with Kane making over $5 million. They could probably find a better way to spend that money now. So they would like to move that contract. And, at this point, they only have, I think it's about $2 million. They don't have a lot of cap space after all the moves they've made. They're getting very tight. They still need to sign Dylan Holloway, who's a restricted free agent, same as Phil Broberg. So they're definitely going to be making some moves. Cody Ceci is another name to watch. Brett Kulak, maybe. Ceci's more likely. And then, Evander Kane's a player they want to move. But again, he has a no-move clause, so he's going to have to work with them. And it just sounds like the relationship is not the same as it used to be, and that they may have a difficult time here because, like I said, they've given him this contract. They gave him that protection. As much as they want to make a move, it's going to be hard to do. I don't know right off where he could go. Because he has a no-move clause, they can't even put him on waivers either. So I don't know what they're going to do there, but look for the Oilers to attempt to move Evander Kane. There was reports earlier today that Shane Pinto of the Ottawa Senators was possibly asking for a trade. That news came, I believe it was Anthony DeMarco of thefourthperiod.com. That has been proven to be false, and that's been verified by GM Steve Staios of the Senators, as well as some other reporters. I believe Pierre LeBrun and Frank Zervalli both put out information that they talked to multiple sources confirming that Pinto was not asked for a trade. Now, we do know that they've kind of hit a bit of a roadblock in contract negotiations. That much we know. But we've got to remember, his agent is Louis Gross. Louis Gross has, taken some players and cost them almost a whole season. He represents Johnny Gaudreau. He represents William Nylander. They both had, especially their first contracts out of the ELC with the Leafs and Flames, respectively. He had those negotiations drug on so long that they almost lost. Well, Nylander almost lost a whole season. Johnny Gaudreau was well into training camp, I believe, if I remember correctly. This guy is a piece of work. And I have no doubt that he was leaking stuff to them, trying to negotiate through the media. And, because there was even reports from Bruce Garriock, who was very locked in with the Senators, saying that he's heard that Louis Gross has been looking for offer sheets for Pinto. Now, the Senators are believed that they're going to match anything. They might be a little tight on space, but it's not that bad. They would match. And nobody's going to come in and give Pinto $9 million or something stupid. So at the end of the day, an offer sheet would probably just help the contract get done. It might not be a terrible thing if it did happen. But he has not requested a trade. So if you see those reports out there, it is not true. They are trying to move some other pieces, like a Matthew Joseph, as his name is out there. Bernard Docker is a possibility. They probably will make some minor moves via trade that way. They did trade Jacob Chikrin today to Washington for Jensen, so they get a right shot, more defensive defenseman, so it changes their mix a little bit. Another veteran in there. They signed David Perron, another veteran. And we'll see what happens. But Pinto was not asked for a trade. Those reports are not legit. Now, Frank Zervalli also went on to say today that he wondered, because he had heard that Vegas has been quiet today. They haven't done a lot. They were in on some players, but did not get them. They could not keep Marchessault. He, on Marchessault's comments, had said after, because he was interviewed after, and he said he doesn't honestly think they tried hard enough and didn't give their best effort. He was very disappointed. But at the end of the day, it didn't get done. He goes on to Nashville, and that's done. But Zervalli says that they're poking around Mitch Marner, and they might be looking to make another big move here. So listen to enough other reporters talk about things and kind of putting all the dots together. You would think if the Leafs do move Marner, I think, based on especially what they've done in free agency, they're going to want, I think, a big right shot defenseman coming back. They really addressed their D. They got some, they got some more experience back there. But if they did a trade with Vegas, they'd have to get a top D coming back. And you would think Shea Theodore is an option, but what about Alex Pietrangelo? Pietrangelo was a captain and won the Stanley Cup with Craig Berube. He's an Ontario kid, not far from Toronto, from King City. So, it's like a homecoming. The money makes it easier to move Pietrangelo. Marner, obviously he's making over $8 million. Of course, Marner's making over 10. But if they were going to do a trade, that would make sense. You might even get a second piece in there too. Maybe it's Pietrangelo and something else. Obviously, the age difference would be the big concern from Toronto's standpoint. But they get a great leader, big right shot defenseman. He's got the size, the strength, the defensive ability, the leadership, the experience, the Stanley Cup ring on his finger, multiple of them, one in St. Louis, one in Vegas. That would be huge for Toronto, I think. So if the Vegas Golden Knights are poking around Mitch Marner, because this is not the first time that we've heard Vegas linked to Marner, and where they were quiet on free agency today, they had a lot of players vacate Vegas. Like I said, it's not just Marchessault. They traded Logan Thompson, of course, which we know. They lost Chandler Stevenson. They lost William Carrier. They lost Michael Amadio. They didn't bring back Anthony Mantha. Alec Martinez, who wasn't overly surprising. He moved on, signed with Chicago. They were in on Stamkos, didn't get it done. I kind of wonder. I've been saying for a while, it's ever since the rumors about Marner started coming out after the Leafs lost in the playoffs, I was like, if they are going to do it, I thought Vegas was a prime landing spot for them. They have the pieces that would help the Leafs that they were going to look for. If you're going to move Marner, you need to get a top D back and maybe some more depth. And with a second or third players in the mix, some more depth, and they have those pieces. Whether it's like a Nick Waugh or you know, some of the other guys that they would have played in the bottom six there, like they have the pieces. Pietrangelo for Marner, it could work. I mean, like I said, if you're the Leafs and you're going to move this guy, you got to be careful. All the comments from Berube says that he's looking forward to coaching him. Okay, I'm sure he'd be looking forward to coaching Alex Pietrangelo again too. Like, they're not going to tell you their plans, but they've not come out and said anything about extending him. And all the reporters are saying that he's not being extended. So at the same time, you got to think that at the very least, if they don't trade him, he's going to play out his contract. He could walk as a UFA. That would be a massive fail for the Leafs if he walks on his own next summer. Of course, Tavares is also a pending UFA. If they lose both of them, now you're going to from a core 4 down to a core 2. You get a flexibility back. I guess they can make other big moves. Sometimes you don't really hear people putting enough value on what the cap space is worth too. But Marner to Vegas, I wonder. I mean, I know Frank sometimes, Sarah Valley sometimes is sometimes a little dramatic with his scoops, but this is a big one, and this is not the first reporter insider to mention it, and this is not the first time it's come up. So I do wonder how much legitimacy there is to this, and if they did make a deal, if it'd be something like that. So we'll be curious to know what everybody thinks. Should the Leafs really pursue this? If Vegas is coming around looking for Marner, does that make sense for them? Let me know what you think down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. It's been an incredibly busy day again. Thanks for sticking with me. Lots of videos on the channel. We'll keep going here as the offseason goes along. You can still expect at least a couple of videos every day, keeping you up to date with all the league news and around the NHL. So thanks very much for watching. It's been a busy day. Time to get some rest, and I'll catch you next time.